But first, the 2025 NBA draft. We're going to talk a little bit about winners and losers. You could just kick us off, start on whichever one you think is best.
Yeah, so the NBA draft happened, and a lot of big winners, or like maybe we'll see how they work out. You can never really declare someone as a big winner right after the draft ends, so you have no idea how these prospects will end up turning out. But obviously the Sixers like landed the third pick in the draft a couple weeks back, and I think that just like vaulted them into a position where they had a lot of options. Obviously, it felt like the first two people in the draft were like solidified, and then you had the Ace Bailey situation where that just ended up not working out for a lot of people, a lot of different teams, and probably for himself going to the Jazz. But I wanted to highlight the Sixers as one of the bigger winners because that looks like a team that now if Embiid like had like essentially like a full season out, if he can be healthy. Jared McCain was like one of their highlights before he got injured. They obviously still have Tyrese Maxey, and just going into this next season with VJ Edgecombe, like coming out of this draft, he is like a slashing product who is very good on defense. If he can improve his shot to like at least a decent level, it feels like they have a prospect where they can like build on like a solid base of guys for the next couple years. And I just like the pick in general, especially given the fact that like Ace Bailey kind of made it like clear that like he wasn't like he didn't plan on working out with them, and just like his whole situation, it just feels like a little bit toxic. So like avoiding that situation, getting a guy who like seemingly wants to play with them, and just a good overall prospect, one of the best players in the draft, I think was good for them. And they like with the East being so wide open this year, it looks like the Sixers have a good enough team where they can at least be competitive with the guys that were already on the team, and then including in addition like yeah.
It will, yeah, like VJ Edgecombe. I
Yeah.
think that they were in a good position because, it felt like there was a little bit of a drop there because Charlotte ended up taking Colin Knippel with the fourth pick, and like with Ace Bailey kind of tanking his draft stock, that was the last team and the last player, the last little like marriage there that kind of felt like it worked at that position. So while dodging maybe a potential bullet in Ace Bailey, they got VJ Edgecombe, and it made sense where they were. And so I think that that worked out. Also, I kind of like Janai Broom. I mean, maybe he could do something in the NBA. He's going to have to figure out the mobility issues. I don't know how if he's fast enough to keep up with some of the centers in this league, but he's going to have to figure that out. But that could be a potentially nice piece. We'll see how they end up doing in summer league. A plus that I think from or a team that I think had a net positive in this NBA draft was the Atlanta Hawks. I think just totally making that trade and getting an unprotected 2026 first round pick is a dub for them. And then Asa Newell, I don't know how you would pronounce his last name. Hey, it is what it is.
My guy.
Yeah, that's your guy.
I literally like before our draft episode, I said that like we like Asa Newell was the guy that like I thought could be like a later like pick steal.
Oh well, I thought he was a good pick too. So he went number 23 with them. I kind of forgot that you pronounced his name.
Yeah, I
But
was talking about I was with the best player on Georgia last episode, bro. You already forgot it was like 2 days ago.
I'm the one editing everything. Of course, I'm gonna forget. I've got
I'm
like
sorry.
5 different clips from the last episode.
Okay, all right.
This has
You can
gone off
go
the
on.
rails, but I thought the Hawks did pretty well. Plus, they ended up getting Porzingis right before that, so we'll see exactly like how much minutes he'll get in the rotation. But I thought that they ended up having a good draft. Also, I think that the Brooklyn Nets, like as far as taking all or using all 5 picks in the first round, I think it's not something that you would usually do. I think that you would usually want to move off of them and spread it out over different drafts. But I think I give any credit to any of the organizations that want to stick by their guns and do what they think is best. And if they thought that that was the best way to go, then it is what it is. Also, I believe 4 of those guys were foreign, so maybe they're not all going to end up playing in their rookie years right away. So
Yeah, I also wanted to give a shout out to my Miami Heat for getting the steal of the draft and Kasparis Jaquinionis. That's how you pronounce his name. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't watch a single Illinois basketball game this past season, but actually that might not be true, but
yeah, we
still.
listened to some on the drive. I thought during the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, no, we I think we watched a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament,
Yeah.
and I like definitely like I mean he was on ESPN rated as the number 10 overall draft prospect this year, and he dropped all the way to 20. And the Heat, like, okay, one thing I do know about the Heat situation is the fact that we do need a guard. Tyler Hero was like facilitating, and we had guys come in and try to fill in that role, but like we just didn't have a solid point guard this season. Tyler Hero isn't a one at like heart. He's a pure scorer, and he tried to play like the one at times this season, but it wasn't the greatest thing in the world. We have our bigs now. Khalil Ware was obviously a great pick for us, and then like just in general, like we've gotten the size that we need. We like Bam doesn't have to play the five anymore. He can like convert to his natural position, and it didn't like lead to the greatest things this year. Like we got swept in the first round, but I think that the addition of a guard, a bigger guard who can hopefully play defense and facilitate the ball could be a really great thing for the Heat. And like just in general, the last couple of years, the Heat have done a really great job of stealing like later round picks and making or at least developing late round talent. Like we had Gabe Vincent for a while who tailed off after playing here. Tyler Johnson, if any Heat fans remember him, like just a lot of players that even Caleb Martin, like going other places and kind of returning to the Heat and playing really well in the finals run, just in general we've done really well with like later round talent, and then like the main highlights of that Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, or two of the guys we got in the later round, like later part of the lottery, who ended up turning into all stars for us. So in general, like the Heat have done a really good job. Jaime Jaquez very recently of getting guys later in the draft that maybe were passed on or looked to be a little bit like lesser prospects and developing them. So I'm excited for this guy, and we needed a guard, so I'm glad we got one.
I'm gonna go with two teams here, one a little bit higher than the other, but both I think that are they had positive drafts. I think the Spurs with Carter Bryant dropping all the way to them. I think that that's a dub. And then obviously the consensus number two was Dylan Harper, so they didn't have to deal with anything that was going on with Ace Bailey. I think that that's a solid draft. They kept both of those picks, so they're going to just move forward as a young team, and it looks like they've got a seriously nice core around Victor Wembanyama. I like that. And then also from the Utah Jazz perspective, I know that there's going to be a ton of buzz going around their relationship with Ace Bailey and then what exactly is going to happen with that. He's going to play for them. He's going to play for them on opening day, and he's going to sign a contract. And if he ends up just not wanting to re-sign as soon as restricted free agency hits, he doesn't want to extend anything of that sort, then he played NBA basketball for them, proved what he could do, hopefully raise his draft stock, and they can get him out of there. And they also got Walter Clayton Jr., who I think is a really good player, who I think does have NBA potential. And so I think at the end of the day, you got a guy who had was rated higher than what you took him at and could give you a ton of draft or trade capital. And you got another guy who could be a rotational point guard at the very least in the NBA. I think that that's a positive haul.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with anything that you're saying. I feel like there was some like individual like it's hard to say that like any team is a loser just because like in the draft like analysis part of this, if you want to even call it that from like what like the perspective of what we do, like looking into players, like I you can't really project too much of like your feelings on players because like a lot of people exceed and a lot of people like just like kind of like crumble under the pressure of being an NBA player and it happens. But I feel like some individual players lost out